Hey everybody, welcome back to another herb lesson. I'm Kyle Denton from Tippecanoe Herbs and the Root Radical Herbal Academy, and I got a really fun one today. This is called Herbs for Time Travel. Yeah, this is a real class. And this is a class that came to my mind a long time ago, came past my mind a long time ago because it was originally posted by Jim McDonald, maybe 10 years ago, as like a April Fool's joke, herbs for time travel. And I was like, I don't know. I think that's a pretty good, I think I could come up with a class. And so here I am. I'm going to attempt to do it. And I'm really excited because yesterday was November 5th, and I went to see Back to the Future in the movie theater on the big IMAX silver screen. It was awesome. And they're playing it there because it's the 40th year anniversary of the release date. 40 years. Gosh, time flies, does it? And so, God, it was such a treat. It was such a treat for me because, one, that is my favorite movie of all time. It is my all-time number one favorite movie. Nothing else even close. It is so fun. And two, because I haven't seen a movie in a theater, like I've only seen another one in the last 7 years. So it's like the second movie I saw in a movie theater in the last 7 years. And so just all the experience, it was just a great treat. And three, I didn't mean to pick this. It just kind of happened. It just fell this way. But I was like, let's go on this day. And then that was November 5th. And in the movie, that's the day that they travel back to. November 5th, 1955. And that's the day that Doc Brown slips and falls, hits his head, and comes up with the idea of the flux capacitor, which makes time travel possible. So I'm going to be referencing that movie a little bit, just a little bit. It's not important that you know that movie or love it as much as I do to enjoy this class. But I do want to give a little breakdown on that movie that this was really, really excellently broken down by a YouTuber by the name of Scrawny2Brawny. Look up Scrawny2Brawny YouTube. Back to the Future Decoded. He does a really good job of showing that it's actually the story of the Olympians overthrowing the Titans. So once upon a time, there was a realm that was ruled by the Titans, and the head honcho of that was Saturn. And he had a prophecy of his sons overthrowing them, and of course it comes to pass. So Saturn is represented, or represents time. So Saturn is time, chronos, chronological order, all that stuff. And death and black. And so he, or the Titan Saturn in the movie, is the antagonist and is depicted as the clock tower. And Zeus, who overthrows Saturn and becomes the king of the Olympians, hanging out at Mount Olympus, is the god of lightning. He's the first scene that you see. The depiction of Zeus is smoke coming out from above, and all of a sudden the DeLorean rolls down and opens up the side of the door, and there is Zeus, aka Doc Brown, who kills the clock tower with a bolt of lightning. He gets the help from his three brothers, or there's three brothers that make this coup de grace possible, and that is Hades, or Pluto, who is Marty McFly. The first scene that the audience gets introduced to is Marty's feet walking in, kicks his skateboard over, and it hits a box that's labeled plutonium. He's got his big Hades shadies on, his big Hades glasses on, and one of the weapons, if you will, of Hades is the helmet of invisibility. So he's able to turn invisible. His hand starts turning invisible while he's playing the guitar. And he's able to move around in broad daylight without being seen or noticed. So there's Hades. And I also think Mercury is there. You find Mercury at 88 88 is the Mercury number, and the other brother that helps overthrow is Neptune, and Neptune is, or Poseidon, which is the enchantment under the sea dance. You see a big statue of Neptune hanging out there. So they all get together, and boom, they get rid of the clock tower and abolish time. So awesome. It's there's so many truth drops and other fun things about that movie too. Lots and lots of fun. But let's get into the herbs. I think that would be really cool. So the first one I was thinking of as like an herb for time travel is Ho Shu Wu. This is a herb I take every morning. It's also called He Shou Wu. It's also called Fo Tea. This is the Chinese names for Polygonum multiflorum. That's what us in the West in our Latin names call it. So that's the botanical name, Polygonum multiflorum. And it's the root of the plant that is used. And it has to be prepared in a particular type of Chinese way, which is like cooking it in some black bean juice. And so the result of the preparation is this black, the way that I typically take it is as a powder, but you can find it in whole root form as well. And the color black in Chinese medicine represents jing tonic. So jing is our essence. It's our blueprint. It's we get our jing from the kidneys, which is like the not just the organs, but they're kind of like the seat of this energetic blueprint of essence, if you will. And so things that are black are typically going to have a jing tonic aspect to them. So Ho Shu Wu, what's the story of Ho Shu Wu or He Shou Wu? Well, it starts with a guy named He. And he is the he in He Shou Wu. He Shou Wu means he's black hair. That's what the plant name means. He's black hair. Well, the story is there's a couple of different versions, but he, the guy, was impotent, and he was drunk, and he was old. He was getting old. He was 58 years old. And one day he was drunk, and he didn't make it into his door. He passed out right in front of his door. And when he woke up in the morning, he noticed a plant that was a vine that was growing in twines, and then it would spring back apart. And it was just so interesting to him. So he dug it up, and he went into town and asked people, what is this? What is this? Nobody knew. Nobody cared. And there was a jester there, and it's always important to have a jester in the story to keep things going. And the jester said, hey, you're impotent. You're old. You're childless. You think that plant is peculiar. Why don't you just try it? You think it's some sort of divine drug? You should take it. So he did. So he took it. He, also known as the guy named He, took it. And in this account I was reading, it says, after 7 days, he suddenly recognized clearly the principles of human life. After seven tens of days he had passed, he felt unburdened and strong, and he could barely control his sexual desire. All right. And then he married a widow. They ended up having a son. All of his complaints had disappeared, and he regained his youthful appearance. And then all because of this plant. And then it goes on that he lives to be 130 years old, and so did his son. And there's another account from his own account. And by the way, this is his own account, as in like the mythological he. He said it wanted to bring him peace of mind, so that's why he took it. But it ended up becoming harmful because it was actually restoring his sexual desire. So that's one of the things about this plant, is that it's known as a youth tonic. It returned his white hair back to black, resetting the clock, if you will, and restoring his essence, restoring his like primordial essence. And so I'm thinking about other jing tonics and other plants that have like that are black. There's another one that I also take in the morning, and this is I've been experimenting with Hoshu Wu because I got a little bit of gray in my beard here, and that's not unusual. I'm in my mid 40s, but I'd like to see if I can reverse that. So I've been doing that with some cumin seed, black cumin seed, and I'm just going to look up here. Black cumin seed is in the Quran. Let's see. I think it says, Muhammad thought it was, use the black cumin seed because it contains a cure for every disease except death. So it's written in the Hadith. Sorry, I said the Quran, but it's the Hadith. According to the authentic Hadith, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said that. So I'm not making that claim, just reiterating here. But I think that black cumin oil is awesome. The idea here is that this isn't necessarily a doctrine of signature. Is like, you use black or you use these dark things for restoring dark hair. But rather I think of it more as like jing tonics, jing essence. And another one would be shilajit. Now shilajit is becoming really popular lately. And I think shilajit is like, it's a mystery to a lot of people, but I think Topher Gardner recently solved it when he was talking about that it could be, so what it's described as is like this primordial goo that comes from the tops of mountains. So you got to go way up in the Himalayas to get it. You could find it in the mountains in Utah. You could find it in the mountains of other places around Siberia and so on. But it grows way up in the mountains. And the idea is that like old, fossils and plant matter or whatever are getting all compressed by the mountains, and it's like squishing out this primordial goo that's super rich in humic and fulvic acids and like really, really rich in minerals for our body and in a bioavailable way. Topher Gardner was recently talking about how it makes sense from a biochar perspective, that it's like not fossilized biochar, but it's like some organic biochar matter. It's just like organic biochar ooze. That makes a lot of sense to me, especially in the case of thinking about, it's not, the world isn't being like squeezed together and molded by tectonic plates, but there's something else. There's maybe some sort of other plasma events that have occurred throughout history that have changed the ecological nature. And either way, it's a mystery, but one thing is sure. Shila means rock, and Jit means to have won or conquered. So what it really means is the word Shilajit means conqueror of mountains. And I love that too, because when I think about Capricorn, the goat, and the earth sign, the cardinal earth sign of Capricorn, I think of mountains. Like that's the feature that comes to my mind as like something in nature of cardinal earth, as opposed to like mutable earth, which might be like trees, turning back into soil, or fixed earth in the case of Taurus, which is like the grass, the ground that we stand on, which we're grazing, that which we're building on. And so cardinal earth, this like primordial mountains, mountain ranges and stuff like that. And so the conqueror of that, and by the way, Capricorn being ruled by Saturn or Kronos, once again, the conqueror of Kronos, or the conqueror of that which Kronos rules, these mountains, Shilajit. But you know what else conquers rock? Paper. That's right. Paper beats rock. Here's another one that I thought of as like a longevity tonic. Now we're moving we've started out way over in Chinese medicine, and we've kind of moved our way to the Himalayas. Now we're going to India, and ashwagandha comes to mind. Ashwagandha is a rasayana in the Ayurvedic tradition, which means longevity tonic, I guess is a good way of translating it. And so ashwagandha was, when I first started studying herbalism, was through the Ayurvedic modality. And so I was learning about herbs that were just, plants that were ground up in a jar. And I didn't really have a connection to like the plant itself. It was just this. So I started with ashwagandha as like, let me see, if this stuff, you really, like, people sometimes, one of the bad faith questions that we'll get once in a while as an herbalist is, you really believe this stuff works? You really believe this, huh? And so there was probably a part of me doing that. Like, do I really believe in this white powder that says ashwagandha on the jar is going to work? And after 7 days, I started pondering the human no. But it did really, really, really reinvigorate me in the way that ashwagandha does. Like, it is it's considered in Ayurveda a male health tonic, but you know what? It's a health tonic, and it is definitely a sexual health tonic. And ashwagandha, I've worked with people who have had one testicle that were, because of testicular cancer, that were looking to father a child. And guess what? We worked with ashwagandha, and that kiddo is thriving. So ashwagandha definitely has an ability to restore sexual vitality. And I would say that was my first experience with like wondering about herbs, is like feeling that. And also the feeling, like the indication that when we had with he Sho Wu, and he's like, my peace of mind is gone because all I can think about is like, that was definitely the case with, I really felt like 1.21 gigawatts going through the flux capacitor. You know what I mean? So that was the initial impression of ashwagandha. I would say it's not always that way, and it might not be that way for everyone. I felt like I was in pretty good health when I was taking it for the first time. And since then, I still consume ashwagandha regularly, and it doesn't seem to have that effect anymore. Maybe I just need to work through that or whatever. I don't know, but that would be something to consider, is that if in turning back the years, you also want to turn back the years on sexual vitality. The plant that's called ashwagandha, which means smell of a sweaty horse, and kind of tastes like that. It's got like this bittersweet, like sweaty horse flavor. And most people are like, what does a sweaty horse smell like? What does a sweaty horse taste like? You can find out without even have to smell one, or taste one even, I should say. Excuse me, can I lick your horse? Just trying to see if my ashwagandha is any good. No, you just make yourself some ashwagandha, and you'll be like, oh yeah, that totally smells like what I thought a sweaty horse would smell like. Here's another one that came to mind, is like returning and maintaining longevity, like getting as far to the center of the bubble of time as you can, to make things really slow down and feel like, everything fast is moving around you and you're just maintaining your cool. In like the center of inertia of all of the motion is reishi mushroom. Reishi mushroom is called the mushroom of immortality as well. And this is not an herb per se, and neither is shilajit, but they're things that herbalists use. So it's a mushroom of immortality. And there's this thing that's becoming popular on Instagram and maybe TikTok, I don't know, but it's the reishi baby. Make yourself a reishi baby. So how do you make a reishi baby? Well, what is a reishi baby? First of all, reishi baby is a baby that was made in utero while the mother was consuming reishi mushroom on a regular basis. And because of that, the baby is all zen. That's what reishi kind of does to you. It kind of makes people feel like they're at the center of the inertia, and everything else is just moving around kind of fast, and it's all cool. It's all good. The way that the Chinese describe it is that it's a shin tonic. So it returns all of our consciousness back to our heart, which is where our mind is or emanates from. And so when our mind gets disturbed, the shin kind of leaves and it could stay out there in the field. One way that I always feel my shin leaving is when I slam on the brakes to not hit a squirrel. And like the squirrel is like the mercurial animal. It's like the trickster. It's like the jester. It's got to get the story going, right? So it spirals up the tree and spirals back down, and so it's got the spiral. When it's on the ground, it's hopping like a wave form. It's all these things mercurial, and it gets to the edge of the road. And where am I going to go? I'm going to go this way. Am I going to go that way? I'm going to go both ways. Blah, 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 back and forth. Million decisions at once. And then it decides to bolt out finally right in front of your car. Brrr, slam on the brakes. And then the squirrel's just like, ha ha ha, picks up his walnut and runs away. But me, I'm over here with my shin going out, woo, 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 like, oh, that was close. I almost hit, the car behind me is probably like, what the heck? Why didn't you just run it over? And I could feel my shin just like out, like scattered. Like I was like driving with a whole bunch of marbles in a jar and they just went all over the place. And so that's what reishi mushroom is good for. It really helps collect all of our marbles back into our shin container, which is our heart. And when it's there, things feel slow. People feel rested. People feel at ease and zen. And so I think of it, because it's a mushroom of immortality, there's already this like defeat of Kronos there, I guess you could say. Here's another category of herbs, getting away from the youth tonics and into a whole different category. Aromatics within the plant. This is a big, big category. Every plant that has an aromatic quality to it. Everyone that has volatile oils. And I'm talking about fixed oil plant. I'm talking about volatile oils that you can put into a copper still with some fire and condense those oils into essential oils. So the plants that are aromatic, I mean, anything that you can score with your thumb and smell, an orange, ginger, rosemary, pine needles, all of those things, anything that's aromatic, everything that's aromatic is going to have like the scent, the aroma that has an effect on our olfactory and our nose. There is a connection, a real short one, maybe even by sensory standards, from the olfactory to the portion of our brain, if that's the receiver, or I'm not trying to appeal to brain as the conductor of the mind, so to speak, but there's a place in our brain that lights up when we smell things. And that same part of the brain is connected to memories. And so I teach people how to make incense. And this is one of the most fun things about the job of teaching people how to make incense, is like putting a charcoal onto a censer and then putting an herb on it, a single herb, and passing it around the room and waging and witnessing people's reactions to the plant and inviting them in advance to say, look, this might stimulate some memories for you. And if so, please, if you're comfortable, just like let them fly. And the amount of places that people go in their mind when they smell something that I've witnessed is unbelievable. So to me, the most profound example was the first time I put cinnamon, just regular old cinnamon, onto a charcoal and burned it. So the smell of that cinnamon, I instantly teleported me to when I was a little kid, and it was either Thanksgiving or Christmas, one of these times. And I'm on my grandmother's kitchen floor, and I'm looking under the floor, or looking under the refrigerator, and I could see a bunch of dust bunnies there. And I'm looking at the tiles, and I could see that there's, it's kind of like a linoleum. I can clearly remember the pattern. And I remember there's aunts and uncles and all these adult feet kind of like moving around, and I'm in their way. And they're making something with cinnamon in it, probably a pumpkin pie. I don't know. But just the smell of cinnamon brought me, boom, with clarity, teleported me through time in my mind, in my consciousness. That's where I was. And, oh man. So yeah, the way that people share the stories of how it reminds them of their parents, or how it reminds them of, like, there's this one called galbanum or galbanum. And when it's burnt, it smells kind of like grass. It smells like really nice cut grass. And to me, it like evokes so many memories of like white New Balance shoes that are all kind of covered with grass, and the underside of a lawnmower, and yeah. And so other people should say have that kind of like childhood memory of their dad cutting the grass and the smell of that from galbanum. So yeah, aromatics, how they transport people through time and transport our the action of aromatic is taking some energy from the core of our body and moving it centrifugally outwards. So it stimulates movement from inside to out. And that's why I feel like when I'm walking through a pine forest, my senses become very aware of like way far beyond. Because I'm smelling in the pine, it's taking my consciousness away from my core, away from the stillness of my core, and it's teleporting me out far. So it's not only adjusting the time, but it also can adjust the space that we're in as well. I was thinking too that the flavor, so we're talking about like foundational actions here, aromatic being one, kind of like conquers time. Well, the other foundational action that I think of that reminds me of time is the flavor or action of astringency. So when you taste something astringent, kind of puckers up your mouth. Some of the most common, like it's without, this is something that's not so common in like food and everything like that, the flavor of astringency, other than like green tea, black tea, red wine, certain, really dry wines, green bananas, the flavor that pulls your mouth together. Okay. The flavor of astringency is the flavor that increases Saturn. It increases the Saturnian influence. Let me put it that way. Because Saturn's got the rings. No, Saturn's got the belt. It's all about tightening things up. It's going to compress it into time, into a lesson, into hard, cold, dry. And the flavor of astringency, with a few exceptions, in herbalism is cooling and drying to the body. So maybe one way to another herb for time travel, as in like, I need the time, I need the deadline. I'm leaking all of my consciousness out. I'm leaking all of my essence out. I'm leaking out, who knows how much time I have. Who knows how much time this, how many times my nostrils have dripped. It's time to put an end to that tick tock of my of the moisture running wildly, is to work with something astringent. So that's going to I don't know how's that. It's not going to. It's going to stop the time. It's going to stop the time. Yeah, that's what I think. It's going to increase Saturnian influence, or it's maybe puts things into it's punching things in. Here's another one. Thyme, like the plant thyme. THYME. I know everyone's like, hey, Kyle, talk about time. Like, oh, time travel, right? It's a pun. To me, it's like the most lowest hanging fruit pun. I'm not interested in time for time travel. I think it's kind of lame. Time is not a plant for time travel. Thyme. Nope. I'm going to say that. The etymology of time, it's not like, the same. It means courage. It means strength. It's also linked to the Greek thyin, which means to make a burnt offering or a sacrifice. So I don't know. Maybe from there we can get to the age of the Titans and sacrifice and, all those burnt offerings and everything like that. But I'm just going to go out and say we're going to skip over the plant time because it's probably overdone and it's lame anyway. Okay. However, we can include the plant thyme for time travel as an aromatic plant, along with rosemary and sage and all the other plants of the, Mediterranean fields. So there's your time for time travel. Now, what if I was Marty McFly and I'm trying to escape from the Libyans who are chasing me with a bazooka, and I throw all my stuff into the DeLorean and I say, let's see if these bastards can do 90. What have I got in there? I got my MacGuffins, all the MacGuffins that I need for the film, the camcorder and everything like that. And I also packed up a stowaway bag for the travel that I'm going to pull out at another time. And within this would be the remedies for time travel. Like, I'm preparing myself for time travel. What herbs am I going to bring? Here we are for that. Okay, this is relevant though, too. I know I'm just being like, this is like funny. I won't be in this situation, but I promise you it's relevant because the first one I'm thinking of is motherwort, which is a plant that I call time out of mind plant. Motherwort. So motherwort has this signature where there's a bundle of flowers and then a stem, and then a bundle of flowers and a stem, and a bundle of flowers, and the bundle of flowers turns into the seed pod that's like really kind of prickly, and it looks like a ball. So when we look at the motherwort, we see this like pattern of rhythm. It's like poo, 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 and that's what it's really helpful for. It's really helpful for the heartbeat. Leonuris cardiaca, lion heart. And I always call on motherwort as a time out of mind plant because it's really helpful for people who are stricken with anxiety or grief about the present moment. Or I should say anxiety or grief that is affecting the present moment, but it is something from the past or the future. So here's the description of a motherwort person. They're laying in bed and they're thinking about all the stupid things that they said. Oh, I can't believe I did this herb for time travel lesson. Nobody's going to like me. And now, or what could I have done? What should I have done? Or in terms of grief, like I can't believe that I didn't do this. I can't believe I didn't do that. And now our physical body in the moment, in the present, is saying, is there some sort of stress that I need to run from? Is there some sort of stress that I need to fight? And it kind of locks our body into this sympathetic state. And so the heart starts beating faster and the breathing shallows and the digestion kind of halts itself. And so when we take motherwort, it's so bitter. It tastes so bitter. And I said the action of aromatics is centrifugal, moving outwards from the center, and the action of bitters is centripetal, moving inwards. It's condensing the ether into the present moment. So when we taste motherwort, we cannot go anywhere else because it's so bitter. It brings us right back into our body. Oh, I wish I could think of something else right now. Blah, blah, blah. It's not that bad. It's kind of chocolatey bitter. It's actually, from a bitter connoisseur, it's pleasant in my opinion. But it really has that shuddering, like, hey, you're right here. You're fine. You're safe. There's nothing to worry about. There's nothing more that you can do The only thing you could think about is how you can be better in this moving forward. Okay, you're back at peace. It recalibrates our rhythm section, which is our breathing and our heartbeat. Our rhythm section. Rhythm section keeps time. I was thinking about that in the movie Back to the Future, because they're like, the guy is trying to get him out of the trunk, and he cuts his hand and he can't play the guitar. So Marty's got to step in and play the guitar. And while he's playing the guitar, something happens to him and he kind of falls backwards and he can't play the guitar. And I'm just thinking to myself, this song is going on right now because of the rhythm section. Like, they're keeping time. They're not just going to wait for him. He's going to get back up. He's going to come back up and he's going to shred with a solo. And so that's what Motherwort helps us with too. Holds it down, holds the time down. Now, the same thing, I say time out of mind because of thinking about things in the future, so far in the future, things that have never happened. Gosh, what if I do this? What if I do that? Let me play this whole situation through in my mind over and over and over and over again. And the same kind of physiological effect happens. So Motherwort brings us back into the present, and it calibrates our rhythm section. 1, 2, 3, 4. Another one the Motherwort is in the mint family, and it's a bitter mint. So not all mints are aromatic. And here's another one that's not a non-aromatic mint that's less bitter, but still has an effect on time and time travel, is wood betony. Now, wood betony is a great one because I love both Motherwort and wood betony for clients who have something going on with their third eye, where they are focused on the past of something, they're grieving about something, and they're disassociated from their body and their instincts. So it's almost like the human egoic body is disconnected from our animal body. And wood betony is really, really helpful for that. That's why it's a plant that's also very helpful for people who have headaches that are from, or migraines that are from this disassociation between the gut-brain axis. That's Virgo more, I think of too, by the way. It's like it's really helpful for the cave, the inside, where the hermit lives. So Matthew Wood in the Earthwise Herbal talks about wood betony as being specifically indicated for alien abductions and chemtrails. This is your remedy. This is Matthew Wood. So the idea is that people have such dissociation from their instincts, but also common sense. And it's not to dismiss people who have been abducted by aliens or whatever, but the story is, regardless of, if there's aliens or not, or if it's just like a cultural remembering, putting together of like traumatic birth story, which is something that I kind of tend to think of alien abductions being. But people are taken up, away from the earth, way up there, and then they come back down, and then they have this like, I don't belong here. I feel disassociated. I'm out of my body. I'm out of the planet. And so I think of wood betony as being I think that would be an excellent one for somebody who's like, where am I? My frequency determines my location. And here I am in a different time. I feel like I'm in a different time. Well, I feel like I don't belong to this place. Yeah. Like an individual out there. I don't belong to this place. Well, wood betony for that. We have a really fun recording and interview with my wife, Serena, who breaks down there's this old saying, sell your coat and buy betony. And that's actually, the Italians said, sell your coat and buy betony. And that's something that's referenced a lot in herb books. And we broke that down. That's on our YouTube. You should check that out because it gets into the, not just the Italian, but like the Bergamasca dialect, which is really even more nerdy. Okay. So I'm packed in my bag. I got wood betony. It's going to make me feel like I belong here. And Motherwort, which is going to help me feel like, my consciousness is in place in the present moment. And then I also think of plantain. So plantain is a plant that I call the path healer. Plantain pops up where we've put down a sidewalk and it says, "Oh, I see what you did here. You silly humans, you paved over this nature's path. Let me just break it up for you. It'll take me a dozen years or so, but we'll turn it right back into dirt." So that's what plantain does. It is able to thrive in the cracks of sidewalks, and beautifully, by the way. So it breaks it up. That's a great signature for how it heals the paths of our body from the intestines and also the skin. But also, I work with plantain for anybody who has, this is something that shows up in the left foot in the biofield, feels like they're stuck in the past, unable to let go of that left foot. If you look at the Rider-Waite or look at the Fool cards of Rider-Waite or the Thoth deck, you'll see what I mean. There's something peculiar about the left foot in each one of those, and it's like the left foot is the one that's plantain, and the bottom of our foot is the planta. That's what it's called. That's why plantar fasciitis is itis, inflammation of the fascia of the planta of the bottom of the foot. So plantain as a remedy connects us to our place, helps us receive the energy of the location. Everyone talks about grounding. Grounding is two things. It's giving your energy, your excess charge to the earth, and it's also taking up the energy of the earth. And I feel like plantain really helps us receive that energy of our location. The other thing I like to think about with plantain, it looks like a foot and it likes to be stepped on. And it's always a reminder to me that Mother Earth knows our footprints. It doesn't have to be forged in some sort of paper with an ink, stamped from the hospital. This is our energetic footprint. And it helps us heal from feeling stuck in the past, like there's some grief or shame or something in our path that makes us feel like I'm not worthy to move forward. I'm not worthy to be here. I need to work on my past first. No. You can't do that. I don't think that there's actually such thing as time travel, especially into the past. I'm playing around here, but I do think that plantain, if there is such a phenomenon, that it can be done best by healing this feeling of stuck in the past as a remedy for that. In the movie Back to the Future, if Marty was like stuck, if he goes into 1955 and he feels like really stuck in his ways from 1985 and can't like adapt to 1955, he does, but if he feels like he can't, then that would be a nice indication for plantain. I think another way to look at it is like anything that has occurred, it did occur, and it occurred for your highest good from a pronoic outlook, which is like everything is conspiring to be in your favor. Okay, so I also think that I would definitely be spraying my DeLorean with some yarrow hydrosol and flower essence. Yarrow as an herb is really protective of the environment. It's protective of the electrical environment, especially. It's like a really great plant for protection in general. And but the flower essence has got a great indication for EMF protection. So who doesn't need that now? I mean, I think everyone needs them some yarrow. And I'm talking about like the spiritual aspect of the plant here. And so I feel like when it comes to the spiritual aspect of the plant, which is maybe perhaps the highest, most virtuous aspect of the plant, we could just call on it if we know it, we could just call in yarrow. I think the condition is if you know it. You could do that by sitting next to it. You could do it with a flower essence. You can do that by drawing a picture of it or looking at a picture of it. I really feel like even just like an icon of yarrow can have a EMF remediation, at least symbolically remediate the danger that is occurring in our mind, and allow us, humans, to not be like, oh well, my environment hurts me, so therefore I'm hurt. And in some of the flower essence formulas that are about synchronizing to our auric field to the rhythm of the earth, you'll find quartz of some kinds, like smoky quartz or other types of quartz. And so that reminds me of like silica, or herbs that contain silica, that are high in silica, like oat straw, which is also a really great one for the nervous system, and horsetail, which is really high in silica. And when you see these plants if you see them in a jar at the herb shop, and you like turn them around like that, you could see all of the silica. They kind of like glow and shine. And it holds that light, but it also is holding that information, because, it's quartz crystals that are powering the computer and all of the information that's going through it and coming to you and for you to listen to. So I think that silica is probably one of the key components of the flux capacitor too. I don't know. But I'm also working lately with homeopathic silica cell salt, which is silica. I don't know how to say it. Silica. It's silica with an extra E at the end. And that's the homeopathic cell salt for Sagittarius, actually. And silica is what makes our hair grow. It's what pushes things out of the body. So it has relationship with our fascia and our collagen, things like that, our nose, our ears, our hair, our fingernails. And I'm thinking of fingernails right now and silica as like a meter of time, because earlier this year, well, it was like 5 or 6 weeks ago now, I was processing some black walnuts. And so I put my gloves on. If you ever process black walnuts, you're going to know real quick that it's going to stain your hands with all of the iodine. You might find it out, actually. It stains your hands, and then it gets really dark like henna after like an hour or so. So I've done this enough times and, caused enough grief with the countertops in my life to always take precautions when I'm working with black walnut. And so I put on some rubber gloves, and I have this technique where I was grabbing the walnut, and I was putting my thumbs into the walnut, and I was just like prying it apart like you might do for a pomegranate or something like that, and prying it apart and taking out the nut, and then I'm keeping the greenish outside, and that's what I'm using for the medicine. So I'm doing that over and over, and then I look down, and the gloves that I had poked a hole through the gloves with my thumbs, and so my thumb tips were all brown, totally brown, for a week. It looked like I had two like thumbs up my ass for like a week. And then that went away. But then my thumbnail still hasn't gone away. It's completely stained. Let's see if you can see that. And I'm showing the video for those watching, but there's a place in between. So this is not, I don't feel like the stain of my thumbnail is going to go away. It's just not going away. The only way that it's going to go away is if my thumbnail grows out again. So yeah, silica for time travel. More silica, make that time speed up there on my fingernail. I'm thinking of this category here that Matthew Wood talks about in his shamanic herbal called alligator medicine. And so alligator medicine is the spirit signature of a plant it has maybe like rough or even like warty kind of texture to it. And the alligator in alligator medicine is the ruler of the underworld that breaks apart your bones and recapitulates you before, and so that you can be in good standing or in standing or whatever when judgment comes. So alligator medicine is recapitulation medicine. And this is something I'm really trying to understand better, because the examples that he gives are honeysuckle, which is a Bach flower essence. Let me just see what the Bach flower essence says about honeysuckle. And in my property, I've been eradicating honeysuckle. Like there's these big old honeysuckle bushes that are, some of them are probably like 40 years old. And I'm just trying to figure out, let's see here, Bach honeysuckle. Okay, let's see what it says here. It says, the flower remedy encourages the positive potential to live in the present and not be held back. The past is what makes us who we are. However, the ability to move forward in life without regrets does not always come easy. Reflect and learn from the past, leaving the regret behind. So yeah, for people whose memories, especially memories of regret, are kind of like stuck in their field, that's a flower essence for that. So in my work with eradicating honeysuckle from the land, I have been recapitulating. Like every time I'm out there taking my little chainsaw, breaking apart the branches, and I'm burning them, there's a particular memory, that like one particular memory that just keeps coming up over and over. And it's so funny because I was putting this pattern together. It had continued to happen, and I was putting this pattern together, and I was like, wait a minute, how come every time I'm breaking up honeysuckle, I'm thinking about this one thing? Because I was just kind of in the flow, I'm just in the flow of my yard work. And then just like when you're in the dishes or whatever, you're just like, you have your flow of your thoughts. And it was just this one thing. And then I learned about alligator medicine and honeysuckle as recapitulation. And I was like, oh, this plant is chomping me up like an alligator and making me relive this because it's stuck in my field. Another one is teasel. And this is teasel is a plant that we work with to restore nature's blueprint. And teasel was originally, or was at one time bred to be used to tease out the wool. So it's a fuller's teasel. And I work with teasel usually to help with scar tissue. It's actually really great for that. Scar tissue, think about that as a artifact of time travel. Yeah, I could touch my scars right now and just think about those instances. They're kind of like, they're kind of like right there in within our tissue, within our fascia, held in the memory, physically bound. And so that's why teasel, I think, is a really good one for recapitulation. And then another one is burdock. Burdock is an alligator medicine. And when I was at the International Herb Symposium with Matthew, I went up and introduced myself, and we had been back and forth, and we had an interview at one point, and just wanted to meet him in person for the first time. And I was talking to him about my insights with burdock as a recapitulation medicine. So in our interview, we had been talking about burdock as a recapitulation, or we were talking about, this is how the topic came up. He was talking about dreams, herbs and dreams. And he had a dream, and when he was waking up from a dream, he could see a nursing mother with milk that had spilled on her shirt, which is something that's kind of common with, mothers when they're new mothers. The milk kind of leaks out and spills on her shirt. And burdock. And so he had posited that burdock is probably some sort of galactagogue or helpful herb for breastfeeding. And I mentioned at the moment, like, hey, my wife is nursing, and we do burdock every day. And I thought, here's what I think. Because the breast milk contains oil-soluble toxicity, and the mother is now able to let go of the toxicity, it leaves through the breast milk and it enters into the baby. And it's not something that's pleasant or to think about, but the baby becomes kind of an organ of elimination in a sense. Like we pass on our toxicity. The mother will pass on their toxicity from the oil soluble toxicity through the breast milk. And what burdock is helpful for is mitigating that toxicity for the baby. So if you're consuming burdock, it helps. And indeed, that was what like I came up with as a plan to like take away my newborn's like really bad kind of like baby acne. And this is also not uncommon for babies to have like this really bad rash and baby acne. And it worked, burdock. And then one day, there's this burdock that's growing out by my compost. And it it pretty much called to me and was like, you didn't quite get that right. And so I was like, what? Like I could feel it. It was like, it didn't quite give me the lesson. And then shortly after that, I had a dream where it taught me the lesson. And the lesson was, it said, I recapitulate the emotional friction that causes pain in growing. That was it. And so my interpretation of that is when a baby is born, they have, especially a new baby, they have all these emotions that they're trying to deal with. Like, I'm hungry. What do I do? I'm cold. My diaper feels wet. I just woke up. Where am I? Who's that? I hear a voice. And it startles them and it makes them scared and it makes them cry. And they have these emotions. And I know from working with people's emotional fields and their biofields that like dealt with emotions create some friction and take away our energy to a degree that prevents us from becoming, like our most vitalized self. So a baby's got to recapitulate those emotions before it grows. And when if there's a lot of those emotions in the field, then it's going to hurt more to grow. So by burdock being an alligator remedy or recapitulation medicine that helps the baby reconcile their emotions that are left in their field, they are able to just grow big with ease and not be burdened by the pain of growing without integrating those emotions. And I told that to Matthew, and his mind was blown. And it's funny because it's like me discussing something that a herb told me in a dream, and I felt like there was only one person that would understand it and be as excited about it as I was, and it was him. And so in his next class of the conference, he basically talked about that and asked me to co-teach a little bit in the class, and that was really cool. So every time I went up to him later in the conference, I saw him. He's like, "Oh, here's the guy that told me that about burdock." So that was really cool. But I really think that that's what is doing. Like the spirit of the plant is recapitulating the past, the emotions from the past. So we can think about burdock, and I think the title, if there is an article, it would be like "Burdock for Jolly Babies," because that's what it does. It makes big, jolly, jovial, happy, plump babies that have, and then also the liver being associated with Jupiter. I'm over here petting my dog. He wants some attention. I think I'm almost done. There's just one last category that I wanted to address, and that is retroactive causality, which is something that I find in nature in general. Retroactive causality. Something in the past, it seems, put a little stowaway to be packed out for another time. And this is something that gives me the saying that I like to say a lot, especially working with herbs and doing herb walks, that herbs are at the place that we need them at the time that we need them. And I truly believe this. I really do. And the biggest instance this could be something like, the causal chain of mullein being outside my door right now because, last summer a bird took the seed and then pooped it out, and then it volunteered right there, and then it's growing to be like the only green plant that I can see and recognize right now, and it'd be really helpful for this particular sort kind of dry congestion that is coming up with the changing of the seasons and the lighting of the furnace and everything in our family, was because of the retroactive causality. It's there for us at this time because we need it. And it knows that. There's something in nature that I find this principle to be easiest to become aware of in nature. And the most profound instance of it was, I was just getting my chops. I was probably like 2 or 3 years into making herbal medicine. And I was looking for some hawthorn berries, and it was October, and I was like, dang it, I cannot find any hawthorn berries. They were all ripe and gone in September, and all the squirrels had eaten them. And so I'd gone all my places, and they were all bare. And I was just kind of like, dang it, I can't believe I blew it on the hawthorn berries, because I really needed to make this tincture called grief relief. And it's something that was really popular at my farmer's market stand. And it needed hawthorn berries and motherwort. And I totally blew it. I didn't get the motherwort either. So one day I'm out walking around, it's late October, and I get to a patch I've never been to. I've never explored this particular area, and I just went around and I found a bunch of hawthorn berries still on the tree, and underneath the tree was motherwort. And I was like, this is amazing. This is so amazing. I can't believe it. Here they are. And it was just a huge haul. And I was so grateful, so much gratitude, brought it back home, processed it. And it was October 26th, I believe. That's the day, that's the day in Back to the Future that they try to get back to, October 26, 1985, which is funny. I'm thinking about it. And so it's Halloween around that time, and my wife and I go out for a Halloween concert. And then when we come back home, I get a call from my mom that my brother had passed away. And I recognized, after the waves of everything had calmed down, that medicine was absolutely there at the time that I needed it. Like, that grief relief that I needed to make for the farmer's market was not for the market. It was for my family. That big patch that that I needed to process and work with, and still had some left over to do the next day, I needed to do that under the influence that the medicine would provide remedy for just by working with it. And so retroactive causality within nature itself is another form of time travel, herbs for time travel. So there's probably a few things that I would like to include that will come to my mind a little bit later. Such a fun topic. I would love to hear some of your suggestions. So if you got some, please put them in the comments. This is kind of a fun, nerdy thing, but I would love to do some more classes like this, and would really appreciate your support. So if you like this, please send it to somebody that you like. Make sure to, do all the things you got to do, leave a review or like it or subscribe it or put some stars or whatever. Give it some attention and pass it on so that I feel supported in continuing to make these types of classes available. So really appreciate you. Really appreciate your attention. And until the next one, ciao.